Hey y'all, it's your Captain for all things creative coming at you with the Love is Blind Season 6 reunion and tea that will be kind of sprinkled in. If you are new to this channel, welcome. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Stay a while. And if you're returning, thank you so much for rocking with us. Let's get into this room because it really annoyed me. So first, you see Nick and Vanessa in the pod pretend like they're having a pod date, and then they run into Brett and Tiffany, and I guess Tiffany is sewing Brett's pants, kind of a throwback to their wedding. And then you see basically there's like a VIP audience section, which is all the former pod people from season 1 through 6, except for Lauren and Cameron and people that we actually care about. Then the season 6 cast comes out while Trevor is in a room by himself with a countdown for when apparently they're gonna roast him. And then they ask AD if her nails are red to match, red flags, and she said no red flags anymore. And she looks at Clay, kind of shady, and Clay looks a little heated at that comment. But yeah, it's a mess from here on out. So they start with Amy and Johnny, who are still together, and they say their families are close and whatnot, but I was zoning out. And apparently they did like a JCPenney photo shoot together since the season aired. They then was bragging about how 9 of the couples are still married. And then they get to showing scenes from season 1 through 6, which made me upset since that should have been a separate Where Are They Now episode or something for like the Love is Blind anniversary or something, because they needed to get into the drama this season since apparently, little T, Jeremy has another ex that came out that's basically trying to pay him like he's some kind of secret Rambo type on the low. And based on her accusations, he actually came out and admitted that he did used to have 5 firearms hidden all around his old house, but like one of them belonged to his dad and another one belonged to his grandpapa or something like that. And then he said 2 of them belonged to him because he liked to hunt. So basically, he got exposed for, all his blickies and being violent with one of his exes. But he says he's going to get a lawyer, and apparently there's no police report. So this is all still alleged, but he himself did admit to having all them weapons. So then there's also T, because one of Clay's exes came out saying he was with her through the show and they only recently separated. And there's Trevor's ex, airing him out, which they actually did bring up in the reunion. So they had enough to talk about with just this cast. So I don't know why they dragged all the ghosts of Love is Blind past that we really didn't want to see. But again, I guess Nick and Vanessa don't trust themselves hosting, and they wanted to have some kind of feel good vibe since only one couple got married, but this was not the place to do it. They should have just sat in what the season was. So then we see Giannina, I guess, introducing some strange man who we never met before. It was a lot. I did not care about this segment with the old pod people. Because it'll be one thing to spend a little time with Lauren and Cameron, but seeing Giannina and that man we never met was unforgivable. So then they talked to Jeremy about his Hawaiian shirt with his suit, and then they ask who he's dating before they bring out Sarah Ann, who reveals that the two of them have been together since they got on them jet skis, like hip-hop music villains. They bring Laura on Zoom, and then they all get to pressing Jeremy about his ex fiance and child who exposed him for cheating on her. And apparently, she says she found out via Snapchat. So his location sharing has not done him any favors. So then Laura confirms that he did tell her about his previous fiance. So that was the least of his skeletons in his closet. But then they ask him about his location sharing and lying about it. And he claims that he never lied, but then Laura brings up how both he and Sarah Ann corroborated a lie about them never having left the lost and found parking lot, when now they admit that he drove her home after being caught, so they actually did lie. Laura then gets to roasting Jeremy and calling him a clown. Sarah Ann then exposes Laura for talking smack about her in the pods and calling her pick me. And then Sarah Ann calls Laura the pick me. And then Laura says she's not a girl's girl. And I was like, not a pick me fight, because there's a whole bunch of pick me's this season. But then Jess chimes in about Sarah Ann having her moment, just like she says she would. And everyone else tries to stay out of their mess. But then Chelsea chimes in and says that she never talked until 5 a.m. with nobody. Laura then calls both Jeremy and Sarah Ann disgusting. And then they ask her when she started having her doubts about marrying him. So then Laura says she was blindsided by him cheating with Sarah Ann. And then they show never before seen footage of Sarah Ann and Laura talking at the late kickback. And Sarah Ann is seen trying to get Laura to see her side about why she sent the DM. And Laura's just smiling and nodding and says that she did see Sarah Ann's message as disrespect. But at the end of the day, Jeremy is the one who she was going to have all the smoke for, since he was the one who made a promise to her. And she just starts running down on Jeremy to Sarah Ann by calling him a clown and a robot. And as Sarah Ann acts like she's questioning how she views Jeremy now, and Laura continues running down on him. And it made me cackle when she said that Jeremy said that now he looks worse than Jimmy. And I thought, not Jimmy catching a stray in this Laura Jeremy love triangle. And why does Jeremy think he's better than Jimmy? Jimmy was actually one of the better guys that people were actually rooting for this season after they see what he went through with Chelsea. So then the scene ends with Laura warning Sarah Ann about Jeremy. Then Jimmy confronts Jeremy about, saying he looks worse to him. And Jimmy confirms that Jeremy actually called him a villain to his face. He said in the pause when he was at his lowest and he was torn between Jess and Chelsea, while everyone else was comforting him, Jeremy was saying, oh, I guess you're going to be the villain, basically. And then Jim was like, I guess that shows about your character, right? Because everybody else was comforting me and you concerned about images. And then AD says that Sarah Ann's apology seemed useless since she still went after Jeremy, which is true. So then Chelsea calls Sarah Ann out for unfollowing all the girls, but still only following the men. Jess then explains to Sarah Ann that nobody is targeting Sarah Ann. Everyone thought that the both of them, she and Jeremy, should have showed more respect, and that's true. Like the way, Zach and Bliss did their thing was by ending stuff with Arena first. And again, Jeremy don't have good intentions for anybody with the way he's moving, allegedly. Then they show Sarah Ann cutting up on social media. I know she posted a status talking about life is short, send a DM. And in this clip, she was also talking about entertaining people and being entertainment. And Nick and Vanessa did not find that funny at all. And then they asked her, are you for real? Because this is not entertainment. This is people's real life. And then Laura Ann called herself trying to defend herself. And then Laura went back to roasting Sarah Ann and being like, listen, I have my 96-year-old grandmama and people booking flights that they paid for, trying to come in. And then you in one night, made everything get canceled. That was her real life, her real wedding, So then Sarah Ann then starts to apologize, and Jeremy also apologizes, but it's all fake. Then they asked Laura if she's dating. She said yes. And Nick was about to let Sarah go. And Laura herself, sorry, I said Sarah, I meant Laura, because she was on Zoom, so they're about to dismiss her. And then Laura herself stops them and asks if they're not going to talk about Bean Dip Gate, which I applaud her for, because why did Nick and Vanessa gloss over that? A lot of people were upset about that and the objectification of AD. And then Laura apologizes about being Dipgate, and she earned some points with me for that because she did Nick and Vanessa's job, and she at least showed a little remorse. And even her little slick comments about Jeremy's house looking like a serial killer turns out to not be that far off with all them blickies he's hiding in his house. So Laura has redeemed herself by the end of the reunion. So then Trevor gonna come out looking like a super hairy version of the 80s Hulk whose clothes is about to rip if he get angry. And he turned green. But he don't turn green, he just turns mute because when Nick and Vanessa, show the text messages from his girlfriend and they get to reading it, all you could see in here was Micah cackling. Micah from, I believe, the same season as Zach and Bliss. She was actually giving me life with how she was laughing and cutting up next to Izzy. And then Trevor just freezes when they ask him to explain himself. And it reminded me of that lady in court that also froze when the judge asked her if she had relations with that man. And AD gets to pressing Trevor for him to say what he needs to say with his chest. And then Trevor just kept getting hit with waves of shame heavy before he starts lying about how the girl in the text was not really claimed by him. She was not really his girlfriend because it was kind of toxic. But then he admits that he sounds bad since he was with the person. And he said that that girl was someone who he would be attracted to in real life, but he wanted to do the process and find someone he wouldn't normally go for, which still sounded crazy. So AD just started fixing her hair while Trevor was talking, and then Nick asked what other people thought about him. And then Chelsea goes a little easy on Trevor, but then Brittany grills him and says, everybody else here is real. You did a disservice to us ladies, And then he asked to leave, but nobody let him leave because then Jess starts to grilling him about not standing up for Chelsea when she was getting heat in press. And then Trevor, he's going to try to invoke the audience's sympathy by calling on Johnny to vouch for him that he actually was crying. Oh, I did not believe him, but Johnny was like, yeah, he did look upset, more so than you saw on, the show when he got dumped. And then he said he was planning on leaving his girlfriend with whoever he found on the show. And if Chelsea said yes, he would have left his girlfriend for her. And to be fair to him, the girlfriend said that he did ghost his girlfriend for whoever his new castmate connection was on the Perfect Match. But who knows if he'll be on Perfect Match. I think they might edit him out based on the end of the union, but we'll talk about it when we get there. But Nick and Vanessa then shamed Trevor some more about them not wanting people coming on the show with bad intentions. And then they said, yeah, you had wanted to leave before, but you're going to get this work. And then they dismissed him from the couch like a teacher when they were done roasting him. Then AD and Clay's segment starts after a fan sign for AD is shown. And I must say, AD's hair and makeup looked even better on camera than even the pictures that they took. She looked really pretty. And then AD says that the wedding was a letdown. And then Clay apologizes. Clay then says he could never get out of his own way during the process. And he said that AD was the love of his life. And he made a mistake by saying no to her. AD then scooches a little close to him on the couch while losing her cool. And they asked if AD would ever date him again. And she says, next question, which makes me think that she would. And then Clay was asked if he would date AD again. And he says yes. Then AD gets to just pressing Clay and reading him and saying, Clay, you played in my face, basically. So you had your chance. You're not going to get me back, which makes me think that maybe AD is going to get away from him. But there's posts looking like they spent Thanksgiving together, but that was the past. Thanksgiving was a while ago, so maybe she's free of him. But Clay then says that he was not playing in her face. In his defense, he said time went by very differently in the past. He said the time she was walking down the aisle of their wedding and to the altar, he said it felt like 3 days. And he was going back and forth in his mind about if he should marry AD or not. And I was like, 3 days, like the time that Jesus rose from the dead. Anyway, he says he's been in therapy this past year, and he started getting teary about breaking AD's heart. He then asked AD how she felt about the conversation between Clay's mom and dad. She said that Clay's parents' convo closed the circle for her because she learned that she was not going to be able to do anything or say anything to take the stress and the trauma away from him, based on what he had been through and what they'd done to him. Specifically, his father taking him on the infidelity trips, right? And then Clay said his family searching for healing And then he quotes AD's mom and says AD mom said it best that he needs to stop taking up his parents' problems and mess like it was his own. Nick then asked if Clay's dad had apologized to Clay, and Clay said his dad has apologized in his own way through banter. I could only imagine the dad's speech after seeing his wedding speech where he was talking like a coach. And he also said he actually looked up to Brett and Tiffany during the whole process as well. And I do think Brett seems like a better role model than Clay's dad for sure. They then asked Brett how he felt to hear, Clay say he looked up to him, and Brett gets teary-eyed talking to Clay and says he's humbled and thanks Clay since he didn't come from the most perfect home. So he says he tried to see if he could be the best husband for Tiffany, and she confirms that he's doing great as a husband. We then go back to Amy and Johnny's year of marriage, and I'm so sorry, but I tuned out a little bit, but their travel pics in Paris were cute, and him detangling her hair was cute in the video. They then have the old pop people ask questions to the season 6 cast. First question was if Jess's daughter Autumn had any questions or reactions to the show, and Jess tears up, but we didn't see tears, and says that Autumn loved it. Next, Johnny's asked about if he ever heard of condoms, which was funny, and they said that Johnny needs to answer, and Johnny basically said he needed to do research, and needed to be educated on a lot of things, and Amy confirms that she was not bullied into being on birth control, and Johnny does not have a vasectomy, but they figured things out. I feel like they're doing like a reverse ovulation tracking method where instead of like trying to, have relations while she's ovulating, they're probably avoiding the ovulation days. But next we see Chelsea being asked about Jess and Laura's convo at the bar where Jess was talking about how all Jimmy's exes look like her, blah, blah, blah. And Chelsea said that, she thought it was disrespectful, but she does not have bad blood with Jess. And Jess also admits that she was being absent-minded talking to a girlfriend, and she also sees it as disrespect. Woo! This reunion, man, it starts to get boring after they finish pressing Trevor. Sarah Ann is then asked about if Jeremy shares his location with her. Then Jimmy's asked about how his gal pal felt about Chelsea revealing their secret rendezvous on camera. He says that one of his friends is still angry at him for saying anything about it, but he felt like he needed to tell Chelsea. Jeremy then says that Chelsea should not have said anything, and Clay also agrees that she shouldn't have said anything, but Clay also says to be fair to Chelsea, the experience was emotional, And then Chelsea apologizes, and then Nick and Vanessa ask if her revealing that secret was a turning point in their relationship, and Jimmy says, to be honest, he should have broken up with Chelsea right after that secret came up, since he was just going through the motions after that, and she really broke his trust. And AD then says that Chelsea's usually confident, but she was shown in an insecure light that was very hard for AD to watch. Next, Jess spoke about there not being like sparks or lingering feelings for Jimmy at the lake, even though there was a little chemistry. They then asked Jimmy if he choked on eating his EpiPen when he saw her picture for the first time. And he says that, Jess is gorgeous. And then he talks about, the story of friending her. And then withdrawing the friend request after she ignored him first. Then Jess said that she had thought that her and Jimmy were friends before the show aired. Then things got worse when Jimmy and Chelsea started getting backlash. And she supported them in the press, but then Jimmy did bad interviews about her, which was true. I saw some of those interviews where he said she had gotten a good edit and how he didn't want to play into her ego, by letting her dangle the friend request, in front of him. That's why he withdrew it, to not feed into her ego, all these things like that, And what is it? He also said that she had gotten a good edit, which Jess brought up. And then Jess said that he lied in the interview about her hammering him to continue their connections. And also he lied about her leaving the date early after only 10 minutes, the last date. Then Jimmy explains how Jess spoke to him harshly and that he didn't want her to leave as early as she did. And she asked why he said horrible things about her in the press and why he's lying about, the whole last date story. As Jess and Jimmy go back and forth, Chelsea's getting visibly annoyed, and they argue about if she left the date after 10 minutes or 45 minutes. Then Netflix shows that they had a 1 hour and 35-minute date with one 8-minute break, and then they spent 50 minutes after the 8-minute break together. So the date was a total of 2 hours and 13 minutes, and there was no section of it that was 10 minutes. So Jimmy lied, and Jess had every right to be upset. Then Vanessa and Nick asked Chelsea about the Megan Fox lookalike controversy, and Chelsea said that she's proud for how she's been handling all the negative comments, and audience claps for her. Then they show clips from Zach and Buss's baby shower, and again, congratulate to them. But it was like 2 different shows. They should have had a separate show where the old, season cast talked about their life. But we're here to see about season 6 because they did not press Kenneth at all, especially because his cousin outed him or said that he might have been out and wanted to try to just get a girl for his family or something. All kind of stuff. So Chelsea talking about, Zach and Bliss, it's not given. It wasn't a good look. So then they go announce that Alexa and Brennan are 5 months pregnant as of the reunion. And I'm happy for them. But again, I did not want to see them at the season 6 reunion, especially after how mean both Alexa and Brennan were to Cole running behind Zainab's lies the other season. So then finally, Brittany and Kenneth get a chance to talk about their relationship and if they think it would have helped them, grow their connection if they had had sex. Britt says they both made a promise to wait. Nick then asked Kenneth if he knew he used his phone so much, and he said that he was gone from school for 3 weeks, so his whole school community wanted to catch up with him. They then asked Kenneth if he was fazed by the breakup because he seemed unbothered. And he then said that everyone processes things differently, where he was really bothered and he actually called Kenneth. Kenneth said he actually called Clay in shambles. And I don't know. I don't believe him. He's just so mysterious. But I think he was the best dressed. And I have other videos about, the fashions of the men and women if you check out my shorts. But Britt and Ken said they also speak every day. They're like best friends now. And then Vanessa gets into some long talk about friendship. And I was like, get to the tea. But instead, they go back to talking about ex-pod people and that ballerina Colleen that we don't care about anymore. And that man who everybody thought she should be afraid of, that she married from the season. And again, I truly wish them well, but I did not care to hear about them when we're here for the season 6 cast. Then they showed a footage about if Matthew said the exact same thing to Amber and AD, and apparently the T from that love triangle is that the Amber who left early actually had a boyfriend the whole time. And when you look at her footage in the pods, she was looking super bored, and I think why is because she wasn't invested at all. And she was very quick to leave and go back to her real boyfriend, right? And then AD admits that after the show wrapped, she actually did interact with Matthew in the real world, and they had a few dates. She said the first one, he wanted to apologize to her. The second date, he apparently cooked chicken for her, and it apparently fizzled out, but Matthew was her first choice. So it's interesting that she explored that outside the pods, even though, he kind of played in her face with the other Amber. But again, AD is very willing to give people a chance. And she said that she agreed that he was handsome, and she was told that he looked like Clark Kent, so she definitely explored that. And she was concerned about if Clay was burning a hole in her head by hearing about Matthew again. But Clay said he had heard about it already. So I have a theory that since both the ladies were named Amber, I think Matthew confused them and accidentally ended up talking to both of them. Kind of want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but he kept up with the mess. But I think maybe he wrote like Amber down or something on his list for when the producers, figure out who's going to get the second dates and whatnot. And they didn't know which Amber, so he ended up with probably one that he started talking to that wasn't the right one at first, but he liked it, that he continued with both. I don't know, but If AD likes it, I loved it because she went out with him after the fact. So then they're gonna show Chelsea and Kwame, and I really don't care about what they saying. Chelsea admits that she has been casting for Love Is Blind, so now we know we can blame her partly for introducing us to Jeremy and Trevor. But yeah, we did not need to see Kwame talking about dressing like Batman for Halloween, going to Hawaii, tomatoes, tomatoes, tomatoes. Next, you see Micah and Izzy announce that they will be on the next season of Perfect Match with Jessica, but they did not say Trevor was going to be on it, even though that girlfriend leaked that he did film for Perfect Match. So I wonder if Netflix is done with Trevor and they cut his lying self out of all the scenes he filmed. Micah then also says that she and Jess are friends now from filming the Perfect Match together. And I don't know why they got to asking Izzy questions, but at least he said his credit is fixed now. And then the Lachey's asked the old pod people about what they liked and I guess missed about the show from the season. Then Brennan tries to talk again, and then the words didn't come out. He just got to slurring and tripping over his word. And I was like, good, even the universe don't want y'all to talk. Please stop with these non-season 6 people. And then they pressed Clay about microwaving Gatorade, but then they showed that it wasn't really Gatorade, but it was pasta or something. And then they finally end the reunion with Clay's toast. I'm not above you, I'm not below you, but I'm right here next to you. And I felt like these casting people and producers need to pay for their crimes since they did not press people nearly enough. And they tried to make a feel good moment out of what should have been a more hard hitting reunion by inviting all the old cast members to distract people from the issues this season and the fact that there was only one wedding. They needed to ask Kenneth about his cousin's allegations that, he was living life queer or gay, and only went on the show to get a wife to bring home to please his family. They also need to press Chelsea and Jimmy more about if they're still together since they have been spotted all over the place together. And Chelsea was acting a little jealous this interview. She says she's in therapy, which is good for her. But I saw when Jimmy and Jess were going back and forth, she was getting like irritated and she was making little, comments at Jimmy. I don't know if they're just good friends. Jimmy liked to keep an old gal pal, an old jump off as a friend. So we shall see. But AD and Clay, they seem to not be back together for now because the internet was saying that they were together, maybe because I guess Clay's family leaked some old Thanksgiving video of them together. So they spent Thanksgiving together, but I don't think they're still together based on the reunion, based on how AD was acting, but you never know. And then ultimately, Sarah Ann and Jeremy look like they're made for one another because she's a patriot conservative and he's apparently a low-key Rambo with all his weapons hoarding. So they are not sorry. I don't know why people wanted fake apologies from them. So we need new hosts and new casting people. But say how you felt about the episode in the comments. And remember to like, share, and subscribe, and that you are the master of your fate and the captain of your soul. Bye.